We continue our discussion of categorical logic in our fifth discussion forum. So we're in our discussion forum 5 week, and today we're going to talk a bit about the instructions and the prompt choices for discussion 5. So you're going to want to think in terms of the immediate inferences that we've begun studying in categorical logic. So think about the square of opposition, both from the standpoint of the traditional or Aristotelian interpretation of the universal claim, right? So remember existential import, as well as the modern interpretation of the universal claim. And so we've got the square of opposition, and we also have other immediate inferences. So when we think about the other immediate inferences, obversion, conversion, and contraposition, what we're thinking about is how the internal structure of a proposition can be manipulated, thereby rendering or not a proposition that is equivalent to the original. The inferences made around the so-called square of opposition involve inferences that are not equivalent to the original, but rather are inferences that must be the case when you begin with, for example, let's say a universal negative proposition. Okay, so we are in the study of categorical logic, specifically the immediate inferences that we make from one categorical proposition to another. Let's go ahead and take a look at our discussion forum instructions and prompt choices. Here we are in discussion forum 5. You might want to have your appendix for chapter 3 with you as you begin thinking about addressing one of these prompts. The appendix consists of a series of charts as well as rules for a number of inferences in categorical logic. So if you find that those charts are helpful to you and those rules are helpful to you, then you may also find that they give you a way into the prompt that you choose here. Now, you're going to pick one prompt and only one prompt for your original post. For the first prompt, you are going to explain basically the difference between the traditional or Aristotelian square of opposition and the modern square of opposition. So if you recall, the traditional or Aristotelian square of opposition involves the following inferences, some of which are limited. And if you're unclear about what that means, then look at the not only the appendix, but also take a look at the tutorials, the video tutorials that I posted. There should be, actually I think they're explainers, but in any event, the explainers for contraries, subcontraries, subalternation, superalternation, and contradictories. In any event, the square of opposition for the traditional or Aristotelian interpretation of the categorical proposition allows for many more, well, I don't know if many is probably it's an exaggeration to say many, but allows for more inferences than does the modern square. And the question is, well, why is that? Why, for example, is it the case that contradictories but no other inferences are allowed on the modern interpretation? And then for the second prompt, you're going to talk about the other immediate inferences, 2 of the 3 other immediate inferences. Recall that in addition to the inferences that I just mentioned on the traditional or Aristotelian, in the traditional or Aristotelian system of categorical logic, there is obversion, conversion, and contraposition. The modern interpretation, the modern system, also allows for a limited set of additional inferences. So the question here is what it is that connects conversion and contraposition. So recall that you can convert the E and the I proposition and end up with the logically equivalent proposition to the original. And that's also the case with the A and the O. So on the traditional interpretation of the categorical proposition, you can step down, if you will, from the E or the A to respectively the O or the I, and then you can perform conversion or contraposition. But on the modern, that conversion or contraposition by limitation, those conversion or contraposition by limitation options are not available to us. In any event, the idea is to show by way of, or let me rephrase that, you want to explain the ways in which conversion and contraposition are really doing the same thing, but for two different sets of categorical proposition. When you go to, after you've posted, you are going to see your classmates' posts, and you are going to choose a classmate's post that is different from the one that you chose, and then you want to talk about how and why your classmate's post was helpful. Remember, you don't want to just say that it was helpful. You want to substantively engage with the post. So you might want to talk, for example, about, how the example that they used, and then say what that example was, as well as the way they talked about the example, reinforced your understanding or clarified your understanding. How did it clarify your understanding? How did it reinforce your understanding, right? So make sure that you're substantively engaging with that classmate's post.